Jacob Green, number 79, spearheaded the charge. Green, and in the white lettering, those are the Pro Bowlers. Joe Nash on the nose, and Jeff Bryant returned from an injury last week. He was missed. Bruce Schultz has had a fine year on the outside. Fred Young, 3 years, 3 Pro Bowls for Young. Butler and Gaines completes that hard-hitting linebacking core. Taylor and the veteran Brown at the corners. Moyer for Kenny Easley, and Eugene Robinson at safety. 2nd and 7. Lots of time. Man open. Watson, first down at the 42-yard line. 20 yards for Elway on his first toss.
If the Broncos can have their way, they would move down and get some points on the board very early in this game and try and quiet this raucous crowd. Watson told me earlier today that Brown has a tendency to gamble, to take the risks, and he said I should be able to beat him deep today.
Hold on, Sammy Winder is the man in the backfield, so Winder does not start, but here he is on a sweep to the right. And he picks up decent yardage to the 48-yard line, a gain of about 6 before Terry Taylor can bump him out of bounds. So the concern for Winder, misses the first series, and there he is now after the initial first down.
Perhaps a brief burst of adrenaline on the sideline. I don't know. But there he is, and it is an ankle injury that he had. I asked him this morning if he was going to be able to play. He said, I won't know until I warm up. Obviously conflicting information going back and forth.
2nd and 4 for Elway near midfield. Draw Wilhite. Jacob Green was there to stop him after a 1-yard gain. Green from Texas A&M. Not heavy as defensive ends go. He's under 250 pounds. He's a fine sack master and has 12 this year. 4 of those were against the New York Giants, a team record. The Seattle 44. Gerald Wilhite, who came into the game with 58 catches to lead the Broncos.
John Elway, concerned about getting a count, will not even use a snap count from that spread or shotgun formation. We'll show you how he's getting his team underway, but the timing perfect there. The Broncos love those short passes to the outsides to the running back. They really use that as part of their running game.
So what you're saying, Merlin, is the Broncos recognizing they're not going to be hurt anyway. The quarterback signals they're going really with a silent system.
A silent count. We'll show you how that works later on.
Winder to the 42, a gain of 2. Sammy Winder playing his college football at Southern Mississippi and a 5th-round pick, and has been basically, if you're going to use one word to describe him, solid. He's not spectacular, but he's the kind of player that will give you all he has, and that 4 or 5-yard try for Winder is about all he asked, and he usually delivers. The Kingdom. Watson, and that ball popping. Dave Brown, the veteran from Michigan, breaking up the play. Brown, who has 50 interceptions, he and Donnie Shell tied for the active lead.
In a long yardage situation like this, Elway will be in the shotgun, and Seattle's front 7 very concerned about his scrambling ability. They are not that quick in the front 7. They really only have one guy, Fred Young, who can run with Elway, and he's coming off a hamstring injury and did not play last week.
They called Young a spy. He'll be a spy on Elway.
There's the point. Elway pointing to set the man in motion. Now watch his foot had already moved, and they've taken too much time.
False start. Right tackle. False start.
Red Cashin's crew, and of course there's the crowd. They figure they're a part of that 5-yard penalty.
Here's the false start that you'll see right there, the little lift. Well, that didn't look like much of a false start, but you see what Elway is trying to do. He'll lift his foot as a signal to Billy Bryant, his center, who then begins a silent count, and everyone will go on the same count. Not everyone went on the same count on that particular play.
To Mobley, incomplete. And the Broncos will have to punt it. These two teams representing two cities that have such a complete love affair with the game of football and their teams. The fans of Denver and the fans of Seattle, so vocally supportive. This is 87, make it 88 out of 89 sellouts. The only non-sellout in that string was a freak. That was that makeup game in the strike season. Mike Horan gets a beauty. Bobby Joe Edmonds lets it drop, and it's a good kick for Horan, spotted inside the 10-yard line at the 8. And with it a timeout, they've played 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Have rallied from 5-6, winning 4 in a row to go 9-6, and Dave Craig has been red hot in those 4 straight wins. Kurt Warner leads the AFC. He's number 5 in the NFL in rushing. He's on his way to the Pro Bowl. Rookie John L. Williams has helped him toward Honolulu with his fine blocking. Darrell Turner, a deep threat, and Steve Largent. He just is one of the great players in all of sport, and it'll be fun watching him on our isolated cameras. Mike Tice is the tight end. The big offensive line in front of Craig, Mattis, Bailey, Grant, Millard, and Wilson. They're right up there with Cincinnati and some of the others. They are huge.
Dick, we're going to keep an eye on John L. Williams. He injured his shoulder, in fact both shoulders, in last week's game. It's interesting to ask a man to drive in there and block with 2 injured shoulders. Obviously he'll have some help to block that pain out, but it's going to be interesting to see how efficient he is today.
You see Williams there on the far side of Craig from Florida, their number 1 draft pick. Where's 32, the number that Cullen Bryant used when he was the Seahawks fullback. Seattle's first possession with 11:45 remaining in the opening quarter. They'll begin at the 8-yard line. Largent near side, Turner far. Now Tice, the tight end, shifts. Warner. That's almost guaranteed. Chuck Knox loves the off-tackle play. Here's the defense. Whoops, a little extra kicking going on under that pile. Tom Jackson, the talking linebacker, the oldest in the NFL linebacker. Jackson could be playing in his last year. Rulon Jones, deservedly on his way to his first Pro Bowl. Greg Cragen and Andre Townsend in the front 3. Jim Ryan with a spectacular Carl Mecklenburg, Pro Bowler. Ricky Hundley, leading tackler, and Tom Jackson. Louis Wright and Mike Harden disappointed he didn't make the Pro Bowl. Dennis Smith did. Steve Foley joins him at safety.
Everyone's eyes were focused on Kurt Warner, and John L. Williams, who was on his way to a 100-yard game last week against San Diego before he got hurt, is off to a big start here.
Williams catching the flow the other way and able to break outside. Picks up 36 yards. That's the second longest run of the year for a Seattle back. Longer than any of Kurt Warner's. Dave Craig to Turner. And Craig having to throw on his back. Pretty tough to do. Rulon Jones pounding in on the little quarterback. He's listed at 6'1" and 196. He's smaller than that. His one-year career, that is. Randall Morris, late in a game for Seattle early this season, ran for 49 yards. That's the longest run for the Seahawks. Down at the 44 of Denver. That was a planned play.
The Seahawks are taking a page out of Elway's book and Denver's book. Craig sees the opening up inside and very quickly takes advantage of it. Good block by Millard as he kept his man out of it. And that's a fine first down. So important for Craig and the Seahawks to get off to a good start. He's a streak player.
Contrast to the noise for Elway. Listen, you can hear Craig all the way in the press box. Flag down as Warner is tackled at the 40-yard line. Andre Townsend got him, but it would appear that that'll go against Seattle.
Holding.
So they mark off 10 back into Seahawk territory.
Number 52 on the offense. It's still first down.
Veteran Will Grant, the center, who played for Chuck Knox at Buffalo and was acquired this year when Blair Bush went down.
Seahawks actually picked up a 2nd and 53 last week, although they did it with the help of a completion and a penalty. But that's the kind of thing that will give you confidence in a long yardage situation like this.
Craig with relative silence to call the plays. Warner unable to duck out of that defensive trap as Jim Ryan, who played at William and Mary, makes the play. Greg Cragen was there as well. Broncos behind the Bears and Raiders, toughest team to move the ball against, and there's the man who deserves much of the credit.
Joe Collier. See that book tucked into his pants? That's the small book. That's where it keeps the synopsis. The big book is back in the hotel room in his luggage.
I thought you were going to say that was on the back side, but
no.
2nd and 18 for Craig. Largent. 139 straight games. He's caught at least one. Oh my.
Watch the magic of Steve Largent. He just beats Louis right and then forces Louis to take the bad read. And that's what he does so well. He gets the defensive back thinking he's going one way when Largent is actually going the other.
He's second to Charlie Joyner in catches. He's third all-time in yardage. He's third all-time in touchdowns. Sets up. If Craig and Largent are going to have a big day, it'll be because you have to respect Warner's running, because most of Seattle's passing game is off play action to Warner.
You're sitting back in Denver right now saying, how do we stop that kind of thing? The answer is not difficult. You do it with good pressure on Craig. And if they can get to him as they did in Denver, they can rattle him. They can make him throw erratically.
Tackle Tom Jackson had him at the line of scrimmage, but Steve Foley had to finish the job down at the 17. That'll be short of a first down by about 1.5 yards. There is the game plan of Chuck Knox in a little larger print, I noticed.
ACB.
Chuck now 54 years of age. He's been a winner everywhere as a head coach in the NFL, with the Rams for 5 years, 5 playoffs, then with the Bills, now in his 4th year in Seattle. Warner, he was, but he can't get away from Jim Ryan. And that will call the field goal team on for the Seahawks. Norm Johnson was working on a sort of NFL record of his own. He's kicked 5 over 50 yards this year, tying Fred Steinfort's record, NFL record. Steinfort back in '80 with the Broncos had 5 over 50. This one won't be of that distance. 37.
Dick, that is so typical of this Denver defense. You can get down there, but they find a way to get you shut down.
37 yards from the early lead. 6 minutes and 33 seconds remaining in the opening period here in Seattle. And the playoff hopeful Seahawks lead by 3. Well, surprise Saturday in NFL. You should have been here. The guy, I mean, you can't be wandering away. You never know who's going to take your place.
I was really disappointed. I wanted to give him my Christmas list. I heard Santa was here.
Oh, he was. He was. You know, you would be a good Santa.
I work on that.
Well, Denver hopes that they'll be happy and they'll get the home field in 2 weeks. And for Seattle with a 3-0 lead, that's one Christmas present they want to fight their way into the playoffs. It would be a remarkable turn. They first have to win and then look for help. Johnson drilling it high to the goal line. Bell. 20 and out to the 26-yard line. And that against Seattle is a good return. Kerry Justin, 26, with a tackle. And here comes Elway.
An especially good return when you consider that there were opportunities to tackle him back on the 10-yard line. So Seattle does not usually miss those chances when they get you in their sights.
In the battle between the two head coaches, Dan Reeves is on a sort of a run himself. He has beaten Knox and Seattle 4 straight times. Watson, good reaction by Dave Brown, and you can see Brown just itching over there as he dances. He thought he had a shot at a touchdown. If he'd made the move and gambled, that could have been a score the other way.
I mentioned that Watson talked about the gambling instincts of Brown, losing a little bit of foot speed as he has advanced in age. They hope to be able to sucker him on a short play like that and beat him deep.
We have the oldest cornerback in Brown in the leg and the oldest linebacker, Tom Jackson, Denver. Wilhite on first down gets a couple. Number 77, Jeff Bryant. Oh, such a big weekend. Of course, tomorrow, most of the games here on NBC will involve playoff hopes, playoff positioning. First, it's a matter of getting in. That's Seattle's charge. Then those that are in, a la Denver, want to stay home. Of course, the New York Giants with their win today, 55-24 over Green Bay, are the hot team, and they'll be home on the NFC side. First down as they try to haul down the big horse. Orson Mobley, the rookie from Little Salem College, 6th-round draft pick. Last week, he had over 90 yards, 93 to be exact. That's the best by any Bronco receiver all year. Isn't that interesting that Elway, with all of his throwing talent, and it's a passing team, has not had a receiver all year gain 100 yards?
Would give you an idea of how he has been able to take a team without the great stars and make them into a very successful operation during this year. He orchestrates that beautifully.
First down at the 48. Fake reverse doesn't fool any of the Seahawks. Maybe a yard. Terry Taylor. Bruce Schultz in on the tackle. Winder. No gain.
If you're asking the question why a fake reverse, Denver is famous for their bag of tricks, their trick plays. In fact, some call this a crackerjack box offense. You look at it, you're liable to find anything. But I talked to Tom Catlin about that. Catlin says, don't believe that. It's well conceived. That play conceived to take advantage of the aggressiveness of the defense, expecting them to read the reverse and then continuing to the outside.
Great protection. And then he had to throw it away. Mark Jackson and Vance Johnson. It was Johnson. And Elway pressured hard by Randy Edwards.
Dick, when Randy Edwards is in that lineup, there are literally 4 of that front 7 who have casts on their hands. 3 of the linebackers, Gaines and Butler and Schultz, all with hand injuries. And of course, Randy White, you see the cast on his hand, on that left hand. That means we're liable to see some missed tackles today. They can't use that hand to grab and grasp effectively.
And hide a bowling ball in there. Going deep. Steve Sewell, who has been activated, was on the injured list, was nearest the ball. But Elway didn't like the pattern run, and neither did his coach. Mark Jackson was the man who was supposed to be underneath. Sewell had gone deep. No one was there.
Well, unlike the pat that you saw Mike Ditka giving some of his players on Monday night, that was a pat of affection. I think really Reeves was angry because he thought there was holding on the play and he wanted it called.
Bobby Joe Edmonds leads the NFL in punt returns, just under 13-yard average. 10 men coming. Nice kick. Edmonds actually out of bounds when he caught the ball at the 18-yard line. Edmonds favoring a hamstring. Here's Mark Jackson on that last play.
35-yard punt.
I didn't see any holding, did you?
And Reeves didn't see a completion. Chuck Knox, mighty tough with the Seahawks at home, except against these Broncos. Seattle starts at the 17. 3-0 Seahawks. Flag. John L. Williams out across the 20.
Rulon Jones and Ricky Huntley, the tacklers.
5 yards against the Broncos. Dan Reeves, the winningest coach in Bronco history.
Lined up in the neutral zone. Number 69 on the defense. Still first down.
That's Tony Colorado, and they're trying something we haven't seen him do much of, the angling of that nose tackle. And actually what he did was put his shoulder into the neutral zone. This Denver defense, when you talk to Dave Craig, he said they jump around so much that it's extremely difficult to read them. And we're going to try and let you have a look at that later on.
John L. Williams close to a first down. Carl Mecklenburg, number 77, with help from Tony Lilly.
John Elway, I'm sure, trying to get his mind together on the sideline. His counterpart, Dave Craig, and again, we'll show you from the end zone what he will see as he comes out to call his signals.
Well, he's made his call in the huddle. Now he has to check the defense. Now he gets his first read. Change that time. Williams barreling And that'll be a first down. Ricky Hundley, big linebacker from University of Arizona, made the tackle.
Joe Collier will take any idea he sees defensively and pick it up. And on that last play, he had used the 3 linemen squozen in together, pulled in together like the 46th defense of the Bears.
Squozen? Squozen. That's what they say up here in the Northwest.
That's it. Squished.
Craig drills it to Scansey, and he pays the price but holds on as Hundley nails him. Scansey's 19th catch of the year. He's a very popular player from the University of Washington, and he has made one clutch catch after another this year. This is the courage that is involved. You got to have the speed and the moves and the quickness and the hands. Then when all that's said and done, you've got to relax enough to allow the pressure of about 500 pounds nailing you.
Well, he has a master teacher. He rooms with Largent.
That's good thinking. To the 46. It appears that Chuck Knox is saying they're going to try to stop Warner. We'll use him as a decoy and give John L. Williams the ball. And he's over 50 yards in this first quarter.
And if you can climb into Steve Morrishead, the offensive coordinator for Seattle, if they can continue this hammering and effective running, I think very soon you're going to see him go deep, go for the bomb. That's Steve Moore on the right with the headset on.
I don't think they'll run a play that's down to 7 seconds left in the quarter. And Seattle will use the timeout to talk things over. When we come back for the second quarter, it'll be the Seahawks with a 3-0 lead and the ball at their own 46-yard line as Chuck Knox and these avid fans in Seattle look and hope, and they're going to try to cheer today their team into the playoffs. The Kingdome, the land of the Seahawks. Capacity just under 65,000 for football. First quarter statistics. Seattle with the ball more and gain more yardage and lead 3-0, and they have it open at the 46-yard line. Second quarter. Kurt Warner. Jim Ryan hit him first, and then a solid tackle wrapping it up.
Kurt Warner, the ball carrier. No gain.
Mike Harden in the corner helping out Ryan.
There's Carl Mecklenburg, number 77, playing very deep. Boy, did he get dumped there unceremoniously, but like a good defensive player. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times you're on the ground. The important thing is how many times you get up.
Second down, 11. At the 47-yard line, 3 yards shy of a first down. Randy Robbins made the hit.
One of the people covering Largent on that play, number 73, Simon Fletcher, listed as a defensive end. The Broncos have been using him as a stand-up linebacker where he actually is getting downfield.
That an NFL record, the 8th time that Largent has gone over 1,000 yards in his career. Of course, he has worked with the advantage that, say, the Don Hudsons and the like before in the 12-game seasons and the 14-game seasons. He has 16 games to do it, not to take a thing away from his enormous talent. Another record for Largent. And that's the encore look-alike, Paul Scansey. Built about the same way. Not real fast, but quick.
As you watch Craig, you'll feel what Largent talked about, the crispness of this motion. Look how quick that ball comes off his hand. 3 wide receivers to the same side. They just run a little drag pattern in there to get Scansey in position to do what he's done so well, to pick up another first down.
3-0 Seahawks early in the second quarter. Brian Millard, the third-year offensive guard from Texas, charging prematurely.
False start. Number 71 on the offense. Still first down.
Millard said, God made this old body and said, there, go bump into people with that thing. Get in their way and knock them around. Just don't let them get to that skinny guy behind you, the quarterback. Well, he was a little early. First and long for Craig. There's the shift. Look at that Broncos shift this time. Dennis Smith finally shirt-tailed him down. Mike Wilson, the starting tackle, is the injured player.
You notice who is most concerned about him is quarterback. Craig over there quickly, but let's look at the explosive running of Kurt Warner. Dennis Smith, 49, one hand on the jersey.
While they attend to Mike Wilson, a timeout with 12:11 remaining in the first half. Has been replaced by number 74, Kurt Singer, and his job will be to stop Rulon Jones. First down. John L. Williams with a flag down. Mike Harden coming up from his corner.
It looked like the flag thrown at the heels of Ron Mattis, the left tackle, as they tried to spring John L. outside to the left. And they like to run at Tom Jackson, a very small linebacker coming toward the end of his career. They'd like to isolate him and get on him with the running back.
Wearing a brace.
Holding during the run.
Mike Wilson's
number 28
knee.
on the offense. Still first down.
Kurt Warner ticketed for the hold. Did you wear a brace like that when you played? Were those popular then?
We didn't have that kind of brace, the quality braces available today, Dick. I would have had we had effective braces, but the ones we had were about the size of washing machines.
Didn't know whether to have it on wash or rinse, huh? Craig, screen, Warner. Little Walter Payton hop out of bounds at the 27. Dennis Smith, 49 there for Denver. Warner, of course, his great rookie year as the #1 pick out of Penn State when he gained over 1,400 yards. Then the tragic knee injury early in the '84 season, and then came back last year, and despite not being 100% over 1,000 yards, and then this year with today's work over 1,300 yards. A true young star in this league, Kurt Warner. Shy of the first down. Smith gets him at the 19. The third catch for Steve Largent.
Steve Largent gains 9. Randy Rollins on the defense.
His 691st career catch.
Not only gave a good fake on the line, actually faked Louis Wright onto the ground as he broke away. And again, a very crisp and accurate throw by Craig, and when he is on, look out.
Here's third down and 6. The defense will be watching that man, Largent. They go underneath to Warner. First and goal.
Well, if you can't find Largent, here's some pretty good hands to put the ball in.
Boy, Dennis Smith in on another tackle. He's got about 6 already in this game. So the safety man is busy for Denver. That's not a good statistic. They can actually get a first down by an inch or two without scoring just outside the 10.
Number 80, Steve Largent, not afraid to put his nose in there and do a little blocking. That's Tom Jackson, an outside linebacker, head-to-head with number 80 himself.
That's away from the play, but it cuts off that pursuit line that's so important on defense. Warner out of bounds at the 4-yard line, so a good gain on first down for Kurt.
He looks tired going back to the huddle, but he said, I love it when I get my number called time after time when I'm exhausted and I can't think. That's when I do my best running.
Yeah, it's that old saying in baseball, don't think, you're hurting the club. John L. Williams. Denver acting as though they might have been a fumble.
Well,
no, third down.
The important man, Red Cashin, didn't think so.
It'll be 3rd and short. Again, if they decide not to run it, Largent the man to watch.
We mentioned the rushing advantage that the Seahawks would have with an injured Sammy Winder in particular, with Kurt Warner in the backfield, and of course the help of John Williams. It certainly has come to fruition early.
This is the 15th play of the drive. Warner, touchdown. There's your main course in the ground chuck offense of Seattle. Knox loves to run the ball, and he loves Kurt Warner. 11 rushing touchdowns for Warner. Norm Johnson adds the extra point.
The Seahawks have great confidence in their running game. They go at the left side of their line, in behind Grant over there, in behind Edwin Bailey, and into the air goes Kurt Warner.
Quite a drive for the Seahawks. 83 yards in 14 plays, 9.5 minutes. Warner the capper. Craig was 6 for 6 on the drive, and he was 10 for 10 in the last half against San Diego last week. So Craig continues hot. Johnson spinning it high to Gene Lang's side at the 6. Gene Lang finally bumped out of bounds across the 30-yard line at the 32. 10-0 the score. Of course, Seattle will need help from elsewhere, and one of the games they'll be looking at, should they win, will be the Jets in Cincinnati, because Cincinnati is one of the teams that would have to lose. And on the other hand, Denver is watching the Jets. Jets have to be cheering for Seattle because they have a chance, the Jets with a win, to be a home field.
Well, I'm glad you got all that down in your head. You know what's great for Seattle is that they don't have to watch the scoreboard today. Playing this game on Saturday allows them to concentrate totally on what's happening on the field. I think it works to their advantage.
But we have to keep our eye on the commercial account, and we'll be back in a moment.
Approaches on this kickoff. He talks about the plant foot being so important. He actually ends up stepping ahead of the ball and then delivering the kick. Boy, that's a controlled explosion.
Elway to Watson, and a first down at the 46-yard line. Almost like a golfer playing it off the heel of that front foot, where he made. And so there's so many likenesses that field goal kickers use, golfing analogies. You would think you'd plant behind the ball, but watch the plant. He actually kicks it off the left heel.
There's the foot right there, well ahead of the ball. And he said that that's the difference between kicking on artificial turf as opposed to kicking on natural turf, is he can't get that big plant, that good hard plant.
Meanwhile, Elway and the Broncos down 10-0, and it's Winder hit hard by Fred Young and Greg Gaines at the 49-yard line, a pickup of 4. Young on his way. He was the special teams Pro Bowler in the AFC the last 2 years, but a regular now. He's made it as a legitimate linebacker.
He has a great nose for the football, and against a very complex offense, you want that kind of player on the field.
Elway drilling it and incomplete. Orson Mobley, that's not a fumble, incomplete. He did not have possession.
When Kenny Easley went out of the lineup for the Seattle Seahawks, there was great concern. But number 21, Paul Moyer, replaced him. And he has done an exceptional job. And you saw him attacking Mobley on that play to help shake that football loose.
It's a small world, the world of football. As you saw Paul Moyer, 21. He played high school football in California with Tom Catlin, the defensive coordinator's son. And went on to Arizona State, was a free agent. And that old familial relationship allowed Catlin to talk the Seattle Scouts into getting Moyer. Deep, Vance Johnson, and what a catch by Johnson at the 12-yard line. 32 yards on the play.
You want to watch a study and concentration. This football perfectly thrown by Elway, but it is a most difficult catch over the shoulder to the outside. And Vance Johnson fights his way through a good play. That's Kerry Justin, 26, who is right on top. You can't cover a man better than that, but the pass is completed anyway.
To the 17-yard line, 32 yards on the play, and here comes the crowd. Five men around the ball carrier winder. No gain on the play, 2nd and 10. This is the deepest penetration for Denver. Broncos trailing Seattle 10-0. So almost calm and serene now, building for the storm. This crowd at the Kingdom, saving itself. Short yardage to the 14, a gain of only 3. And now Dan Reeves looking for a tough one. 3rd and 7 on that offensive strategy sheet.
This is the kind of situation that Elway went to the quarterback draw last week. You get up inside and put some important points, comeback points, on the board against the Washington Redskins.
Steve Sewell, number 30, brought in the play, just activated this week. Versatile performer is Sewell, who can run it, catch it, and pass it. Gerald Wilhite, ball should have been caught. So instead of 7, the Broncos will have to try for 3.
One of the things that this kind of noise and this kind of fan pressure gives you is an exaggerated feeling of what is happening on the field. Emotionally, it tends to create that feeling of, oh, we blew the opportunity. The pressure is tremendous on the field.
31-yard attempt by Carlos. And Denver has its first points. 6 minutes and 14 seconds left in the first half. Seattle by a touchdown. Gerald Wilhite, who is a top pick out of San Jose State. He's been an all-purpose man, rushing, receiving, kick returns. But his 60th catch of the year didn't materialize, and he's shaking his head on the sidelines. That would have been 7 for Denver. They had to settle for a 31-yard field goal by Rich Carlos. 10-3 Seattle. Well, we watched Norm Johnson and how he plants that left foot as he kicks. Now let's look at the shoed left foot of Rich Carlos. See if there's any contrast. basically the same technique.
You notice that Norm Johnson's foot well in advance of the football. Let's see where Carlos puts that plant foot of his. That long stride just barely beyond the line. I think, again, that's because he primarily kicks on a natural turf. He can't be as aggressive in his kicking style because on a natural turf, that foot tends to slide or slip out from underneath you.
Ray Butler to the right, Larkin to the left. 6 minutes left, first half. Williams. Mecklenburg gets him at the 34, a gain of 5. There's a case of sending Warner right, a little misdirection, and giving it to John L. Williams to the soft side of the field.
Denver's first priority defensively is to take away Kurt Warner. You know they're focused on him. And of course, with those shoulder injuries, I think they would rather have John L. carrying the ball and blocking on a lot of occasions. I think they'll keep him in the game longer that way.
Going deep. Butler. No play. Now the flag. A late flag thrown by the official. He thought about it some time, and after the play was over, down goes the linen.
I think number 45, Steve Wilson, got that hand up there and interfered with the catch. But that's the play we've been expecting, taking advantage of what they've been able to do on the running game. They go for the deep bomb.
Interference, number 45 on the defense. First down.
A 47-yard penalty. Now Butler has beaten Wilson, but the pass is a little short, so Butler will have to slow down. It's in that part, that phase of this pass, that Wilson makes the contact. Here, now he slows down. Wilson, watching the ball, runs into him.
And you see the pushing that actually pushed the receiver away from that ball. That's what they called him for.
47 yards down to the 19. Good yardage on first down inside the 13-yard line.
Number 98, Ricky Hundley, the number 1 tackler on this defensive team, as he should be. He's in that weak inside linebacking position. Look how he comes laterally to the line, driving to the outside. He's the man who gets out there all the way from the inside, gets a piece of Warner, and actually enough of him to knock him down, even though he had help on the tackle. Dick, Joe Collier's defensive scheme is the most complex in the NFL. In fact, the Seattle offense didn't try and name all of his defenses. They said it's this Denver look or that Denver look. They had to group them together.
Team defense. 2nd and 3. Flag down. Williams, a first down if to about the 6.5. Mecklenburg made the tackle.
Illegal procedure.
And they'll call it back. So on a 2nd and 3, that's when you don't want to get that 5-yard penalty.
Illegal formation. Number 74 on the offense, not up on the line. Still 2nd down. All right.
Got to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage.
And of course, Singer, as we mentioned, in the game because of an injury to Mike Wilson, and his inexperience really caused him to back off on that football. He has got to be up within the numbers of the center, and if he's not, they will throw the flag on him.
He was almost a wing back, just like one of those tight ends that'll come up as a wing off the tackle.
Now cheating his position, he needed to move inside the block, and he kind of backed off to do it.
Mike Wilson will not return, injured knee. Incomplete. A juggling try by Butler as he worked on Steve Wilson. That'll bring up 3rd and 7.
It's interesting that the play was designed to be thrown a little earlier, and Craig got the timing out of whack, but it almost worked for him as he was able to deliver that ball down the sideline, and Butler bobbled it, or I think he would have had a touchdown.
Big play for both teams. Seattle leading 10-3. 3rd and 7. Largent, but he drew double coverage. Dennis Smith and Mike Harden were on him, and Seattle apparently will have to go for 3. That one really didn't have a chance, that last pass.
Well, Denver has several defenses where they will play zones, but they'll put an extra man-to-man with Largent. And sometimes in their man-to-man defenses, they put 2 men on Largent specifically. So that's the kind of respect he draws from this opponent.
35-yard attempt by Johnson for his second field goal of this half. Back on top by 10. The 47-yard pass interference penalty, the key in that one, as Norm Johnson hits the field goal from 35. Final weekend of this regular season in the NFL. Your day starts at 12:30 in New York with NFL 86. And the games, the Jets and Cincinnati, 2 teams looking to the playoffs. The Jets are in, but it's still a chance to win the East. Cincinnati trying to get a wild card. Kansas City is at Pittsburgh. Kansas City with a win is a wild card in the playoffs. The Chiefs have come on very impressively the latter part of this year, and Pittsburgh may be as tough as anyone you'd want to play the final week. We saw them against the Jets last week. You'll also see San Diego and Cleveland. Cleveland in position to be home field throughout. Buffalo and Houston is a no counter, and Indianapolis and the Raiders. The Raiders are a distant chance. What was it Matt Millen said when he said, well, you still can make it if you win and they lose and they lose and they lose, and he went ho ho ho. They pretty well have wrapped it up down there in the Raider camp. An interesting offseason for the Raiders and Al Davis, and you just wonder how he's going to patch up that quarterback problem that he has.
He won't sit still. We know that.
Norm Johnson with 4:21 left in the half to Ken Bell. Bell somersaulting to the 34. Norm Johnson kicking off was down there to get a piece of the action.
Normally these Seahawks excel on kickoff coverage.
31-yard kickoff return.
As you watch Ken Bell do a full somersault, not an intentional one, aided defensively.
Yards rushing, Denver total of 17, and Seattle's tandem of Williams and Warner over 100. So not surprisingly, it's up to Elway. For a couple. Elway, even though he's on his way to the Pro Bowl, he'll back up Dan Marino for the AFC, and many would say that he'd be their #1 pick if you're going to start of the franchise, and it would be my #1 pick. If I were starting a franchise right now, I'd take Elway. He still has some areas that concern you.
Now, Dick, I'll tell you one thing. Within the basic framework of the offense, Elway is not yet a great quarterback.
To pursue that. That got my attention. On the run, and he had a man, Mark Jackson, but overshot him. Yeah, there he showed his escapability. You got to like that part of him.
Well, I think that's exactly what gives Elway his greatness. The fact that he can make a play out of nothing. But up to that point, in other words, as long as the play stays within the pocket, as a pocket passer, he has not yet really developed the fine tools of reading the defense, staying in there, and using that advantage. What he does use is his great foot speed and his elusiveness to get out and make the big play outside of the offense.
That's where Dan Marino, the youngster, does excel. Wilhite up by Dave Brown, but not until Gerald Wilhite had stumbled out to the 47, 48-yard line and a first down.
Dick has a follow-up comment on that. I think one of the things Elway had to overcome was his great ability. When he first came into the league, he wanted to throw the ball through the defense. He had such a powerful arm. He's overcome that to a great extent. He doesn't throw that pass with two people hanging on his receiver as often as he did then. I think the thing he has to overcome now is his eagerness to break out of there and use his running speed.
Less than 3 minutes remaining in the half. Draw to Wilhite. It's about 5 to the 47-yard line. Let's see where they spot it. Yes, the 47 of Seattle. Fred Young played at New Mexico State. Made the tackle.
On the Cairo News Radio, Pepsi-free Seahawks.
Elway has impressed certainly everyone that the Broncos have worked against, including the likes of the All-Pro Lawrence Taylor, who said if we ever play Denver again, we'll have to change our whole defense. I've never missed hitting someone that much. He just couldn't get to Elway. Pressure on. Elway incomplete. Dave Brown hawking Mark Jackson. That'll bring up a third down and a long 5.
Dick, the rushing problems of the Broncos have really gone back for about 6 ball games. And were it not for the running ability of John Elway, they would have been in much more serious problems than they were, as Winder has yet in the last 6 games to go over 50 yards, and he had been their workhorse early.
And Winder playing on a limited basis today with an ankle injury. Now the noise. This is what we're talking about. Elway sees the opening and goes to the 39, 8 yards and a first down. And he didn't hesitate. He saw the defensive back was blitzing, and that opened up things on the far side. 2:03 left in the half.
8 and 9 in the first down.
That's not necessarily a good statistic to be the leading rushing quarterback in the conference.
Now, the other thing you have to understand, if he continues to run that way, there will be the inevitable knee injury. And one would have to wonder how quickly then he can make the adjustment to being the pocket quarterback.
Sad but true that if you're going to run it, sooner or later they're going to get you. Going deep, and has Mark Jackson. Dave Brown saves a touchdown. Oh, if that had been just a little longer, that's 6. Flag down. And there's a flag right near where Moyer, the defensive back, is down. He's the man who replaced Easley.
Illegal contact. Number 21 on the defense. That'll be a first down. That's a 2-minute warning.
Boy, double penalty for Moyer. He picks up the 5 yards. The automatic first down and is hurt as well. That's the 2-minute warning with 1 minute 57 seconds left in the first half.
At the top of your screen on number 89, and that's a big horse right there. That's about 45 pounds and 5 inches bigger than Moyer.
Orson Mobley. Timeout, 1:57 left. Here's Elway with a near miss to Mark Jackson.
Elway talked last week about doing things with his eyes. That's what he's talking about, looking off the defense. He got the safety to react that way, but that ball slightly underthrown, and Dave Brown did a good job of being there to knock it away. But that's what he means, using his eyes on the defense.
After the penalty, first down for Elway. Ken Bell to the 31-yard line, and Elway hit just as he threw that one. 1:45 and the clock running. Denver has all 3 of its timeouts. They trail by 10. Well, it'd make a big difference in this game should Elway and Denver get a 7 before the intermission. The mystery guest continuing at halftime as well at NFL 86. And where was Linda Evans when we were looking for?
Who are you going to bring for halftime?
I've given up. No one will say yes. Fine catch by Orson Mobley. That big target, 6'5" and 256. Timeout Denver. A first down deep in Seattle territory. underdog hopes alive for a playoff should they win. The Denver Broncos playing for assured home field 2 weeks hence. 10 points Seattle lead, but Denver has a first down at the Seahawks 17. Elway, touchdown. What a play to Mobley. Boy, the patience of Elway kept rolling and running, and Mobley kept working his way along the back line of the end zone. And that was like Elway throwing from the hole, a shortstop going into the hole and bracing and throwing, and bam. Touchdown, Denver.
Pure and simple, a product of Elway's ability as a scrambler to get extra time and then to use that gun to get that ball to Mobley. Look at how much time he gets. And again, just a simple little move. So confident in his running abilities. Oh, that's a pretty pass. Terry Taylor.
He was covered.
Terry Taylor just right on top of Mobley. Mobley showing you some fine work getting up to pull it down.
The extra point good. I mean, Elway actually defied the defense because Taylor was actually right in front of Mobley. Couldn't have been in a better position. Mobley's first NFL touchdown.
Well, I don't blame him for being excited. That one's still up in the air. Dick, the obvious thing here with Mobley in the lineup, they missed the blocking of Clarence Kay, who is on the reserve list for non-football illness and handling his problem. But Mobley brings some real extra skills as a pass receiver.
Now watch the coverage here. Now here's Elway. Put yourself in his position. He's looking at Mobley, and he's well covered, but he's able. I mean, that is a real dart throw because he had to lead Mobley enough that Taylor couldn't intercept, and he hoped that the big guy could stretch and get, and did.
Well, if you don't have a powerful throwing arm, you don't attempt that pass.
Elway's 9-yard scramble was a key to that drive. 66 yards in 9 plays. The mystery guests continue, and in case you weren't there early today, let's see. Paul McGuire had Sam Huff, and Arthur Ashe was Ahmad's guest, and Bob Costas had Marvin Miller, and Frank DeFord had Billy Buckner.
Billy Buckner
from the Red Sox. So it's no telling who might be there at halftime. I can hardly wait to see. I was surprised. I kind of thought I was really guessing different people. I thought Mickey Mantle would be Costas's guest.
Maybe he couldn't find him.
13-10. The Seahawks will have enough time. And it's Mike Tice, the tight end, who positions them at the 38-yard line with 1:02 and 3 timeouts left for Seattle. Well, next Sunday, and very much up in the air for the AFC, the wild card game. We do know now, with the 49ers beating the Rams last night, that the NFC wild card will feature the Rams at Washington. And here on this side, we know the Jets are at least a wild card. Kansas City with a win tomorrow would be a wild card. So much is going to come down apparently to the Monday night game, Miami and New England. The Patriots are really the key team in the whole affair. Who will win the East? Who will be the wild cards? Craig. Ooh, that was into a crowd. He was looking for Turner. Largent hooking short, and then Turner going down the sidelines. 57 seconds left in the half. And here's where you can draw the contrast comparison of Elway and Craig. Your 2-minute offense, your strength of arm, maneuverability. Craig out of the shotgun. Craig out of bounds. Foley chased him out at the 45-yard line. That stops the clock and brings up 3rd and 3.
The all-out blitz, and Craig made a good choice. There were a couple of defenders coming in absolutely untouched. He didn't have any chance to throw that football. He did the only thing he could do and picked up some pretty good yardage in the process.
52 seconds left in the half. And Seattle still with all of its timeouts. Largent far right. Turner right. Butler and Scansey to the left. It's Warner. And they were looking for the play, but Warner beats it with a second effort and a first down at the 43. Kurt Warner, 12 yards, first down.
Dick, you talk about running at the strength of the defense. Warner going right at the tandem of Mecklenburg on the outside.
Rulon Jones.
And Rulon Jones inside. And he runs right into the stack. Watch him as he comes right into the two of them. There's a cocoon in there, and he just pops out the other side. I mean, that's keeping your balance, being able to accelerate after the initial hit.
That gives Warner 57 yards. Williams has 64. That's been a good 1-2 punch for him. That's the first timeout spent by Seattle. In case you just joined us late, earlier game today, the Giants swamped Green Bay 55-24. Seattle kicked a field goal 37 yards by Johnson to take the first quarter lead 3-0. Then Warner capped a long drive of 83 yards with a 2-yard touchdown run. Rich Carlos a 31-yard field goal for Denver to make it 10-3. Then a 35-yard field goal by Norm Johnson for the Seahawks 13-3. Elway to Mobley. Touchdown pass made it 13-10 just a minute ago. And now with 44 seconds left, Seattle tries to add to its lead. A first down at the 43. Warner. And he gets out of bounds to boot. The ever elusive Kurt Warner. Oh my.
The ability to escape the tackler. Mecklenburg, one hand there. Foley, a hand tackle there. It's finally Randy Robbins, number 48, and 49, Dennis Smith, who chase him out of bounds. But Kurt Warner showing you great acceleration and leg strength, pulling right away from those tackles.
29 yards receiving to add to his 57 rushing, and they're in field goal range with 35 seconds left. In motion. Scansey, first down, 16-yard line. Oh, this has been an artistic drive engineered by Craig.
And I really believe the key to those last couple of plays, very simply, the amount of time that Craig had. And he developed that by the aggressive use of the running game. When you can run the football as well as they have, they're going to give their quarterback a little bit of extra time. All right. Well, he waited a long time for Scansey to come free.
Seattle has scored every time it's had the ball. 3 of 3, and now trying to make it 4 of 4 in the half. The call. And that one will be reviewed, you can bet.
Dennis Smith has been beaten in each of the last 2 ball games against Cincinnati, against the Washington Redskins on a deep play. And here he's a step and a half behind. The ball just slightly late. Where are his feet when he comes down? 1 foot in, and that's it.
1 foot way out. 16-yard line, the line of scrimmage, 2nd and 10. Well, he's lasted longer than any coach in Denver history, Dan Reeves, and you get the feeling unless he wants to go somewhere else, they're going to keep him around a long time.
Well, when he said he doesn't want to leave either, he said the only way they get me out of Denver is if Pat Bowlen tells me to leave.
Well, the Cowboy fans anticipating a was a little light in the tunnel delaying play. Dallas Cowboy fans said if Tom Landry, Coach Landry, ever retires, we certainly hope he doesn't for a while. They had a poll down there in Texas as to the person they'd like to see replace him, and Reeves won that hands down.
He did. He had 28%. Ditka had 26. Shula 3.6. Hackett 3. God got 9 votes.
That's Landry himself. 22 seconds left in the half. 4 wide receivers. Wide open touchdown. Darryl Turner, but a flag is down. No one picked up Turner. But let's see what the call is. It's going to go against the Broncos. Touchdown.
Holding. Number 48 on the defense. That penalty is declined. Touchdown.
And for Darryl Turner, he said, you tell my folks in Watley, Georgia, I'm going to do something special for them. Well, there's 6 for Mom and Dad. Seattle's offense producing on all 4 first-half possessions, 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Norm Johnson adds the extra point, and it's 20-10.
You've got to believe that somebody just flat out blew the coverage here. No, just flat out fell down. Dennis Smith, number 49, as he tried to turn and go away in man-to-man coverage with Turner, went right flat to the ground. Well, that's a nice little dance step.
In terms of using the clock in an offense, this one completes a very impressive drive. It took Craig only 44 seconds to get his team in the end zone. 62-yard drive, and Darryl Turner with a punctuation mark, and they only used 1 timeout. The problem with Turner is not that number, that boy, he catches some big ones, is that he just doesn't catch all the big ones. He drops some that would make that even more impressive.
He did not drop that one.
Field goal touchdown, field goal touchdown, as Seattle alternates its scoring numbers on the 4 drives. 18 seconds left. Ken Bell. That's the kind of kick coverage Seattle's famous for, stopping the opposition inside the 20.
Dick, when you can drive the ball without interruption the way the Seahawks have today, 2 things working for you. First, the running game to give you that good base. But second, 3rd down conversions. In their 4-game winning streak, the Seahawks have been the hottest team in the NFL, converting at a 62% on their 3rd downs. In their 4-game losing streak, they were at 22%. Can you imagine that? And yet here they are in this game, just knocking them off one right after another.
Late arrival, Mark Cooper lining up at right tackle. I don't know if Ken Lanier is injured. And Wilhite, as Denver just runs out the final seconds of this first half. And the Seahawks fans are happy. Their team leads by 10. The Denver defense ranked 3rd in the entire NFL, but could not stop Seattle on any of the Seahawks 4 drives.
Well, the Seahawk running game has done its part. Kurt has done his. Defense has played well, but this game's certainly not a runaway by any means, and we got another half of football to look forward to.
And to underline again what's at stake, Denver needs a win to assure itself home field in its first playoff game 2 weeks from today. Seattle needs a win or they're out, and then Cincinnati, Kansas City, New England. 2 of those 3 teams would have to lose this weekend.
Well, if they do all of that, they'll be dancing in the streets here in Seattle.
Yeah, Turner strutting with 6. It's 2010. We'll be back after these words from your local.
When you're having problems, it's probably John Elway.
Boy, and the topsy-turvy nature of this entire playoff picture. A couple of weeks ago, Denver, the AFC Western champions, appeared they might even have home field throughout the playoffs. Now it's the Cleveland Browns in the driver's seat, and a Denver loss could make them play on the road 2 weeks from now.
Well, and the other thing that we can say very positively is that with the kind of performance they put together today, perhaps the hottest team, in fact, I'd say the hottest team in the AFC, the Seattle Seahawks.
And how about, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers would say, we're as hot as anyone, even though we're not going to the playoffs. And that could be bad news for the Kansas City Chiefs, who are looking for a playoff spot with a win tomorrow. Of course, you'll see that on NBC. Here are the numbers in the first half.
I think the number that jumps at you is the bottom line, time of possession. The Hawks really dominating there. And, of course, that's a function of their running game. 135 yards rushing to 44 for the Broncos.
The Seahawks with a lead will get the ball first in the second half. And undoubtedly, Elway and company heard a lot of talk about the defense. The defense will have to stop Seattle's running game, or the Seahawks will have accomplished their 5th straight win. Carlos to kick it off. Bobby Joe Edmonds, the rookie from Arkansas, at the goal line. Edmonds not at full speed to the 23. He's favoring a hamstring.
Tackled by Rick Dennison.
Well, you want to start hot and stay hot. That's what the Seahawks have done today, as they have controlled the football down the field. And every time they had it, they got it down there where they could do something with it. All 4 opportunities, they found a way to take advantage of with points on the board.
Will try to keep that ground game going. That's his bread and butter. In the meantime, let's see if Denver makes some adjustments to stop the running game. Williams and Warner behind Craig. And it's John L. Williams. Out across the 30-yard line. Good yardage on first down. 7 more for Williams. He now is approaching his very best day as a Seahawk in his rookie year. He had 70 yards against Cincinnati.
Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Chuck Knox brings his troops out with a mix of just exactly what they were successful with in the first half. Gives it to his big fullback, whose shoulders, by the way, appear to be holding up pretty well. We mentioned the injuries to both shoulders sustained last week in that San Diego game.
Williams now with 66 yards. The call again, and a flag down as Williams close to first down yardage. Carl Mecklenburg, number 77, on his way to the Pro Bowl, was there, and the penalty, of course, against Seattle is signified. There's Mecklenburg. Really is kind of an interesting story. A bright student, wants to be a medical doctor someday. His father is a medical doctor in Washington, D.C.
Holding number 52 on the offense, still second down.
And Mecklenburg was studying for his pre-med exams during the draft time when they timed him in the 40-yard sprint, and he came out tired and slow and ran around a 5 flat, and they said, he just can't move well enough to play linebacker in the NFL. Well, he really is more of a 4-7 when he's rested, and Denver stole him in the 12th round. Whoa! Scansey has it knocked away by Tom Jackson, 57.
Well, and the Broncos getting a chance to get their way a little bit, as they will put Seattle in a very long yardage situation. 3rd and about 11.5, 12 yards to go. 5 substitutions onto the field for the Bronco defense.
Oh, here's your 3rd down efficiency you talked about, Merlin. They were 4 for 6 in the first half. 3rd and 12 on this one.
That's about the ratio they've been in the last 4 games. 62%, 66 today.
Wide check that scan, see. Boy, they're tough to tell. Well, you got to really look for the 2, but the 8, because he looks so much like Largent. It's Cansey to the 31-yard line, and he misses the first down by 1.5 yards.
I think Scansey's showing you a little bit of his inexperience as he hooked up short of first down yardage. Not able to get away and put it down. First punt of the day for Gamache.
First time that Denver has stopped Seattle. Gamache from Cal State Fullerton. Last year he was a UPS delivery man at Christmas time. Here he is trying to kick his way into the playoffs. Gerald Wilhite with running room. 25. 33-yard line goes Wilhite.
Talk about adjustments. Collier getting a little help. One of the things that has allowed Denver's defense to be so successful is continuity. This is Collier's 18th year as the defensive coordinator in Denver. Stan Jones, his line coach, has been there 16 years. And Merle Moore, the linebacker coach, 14 years, or 12 years. That's continuity.
And that is the noise of the Kingdom that'll fight Elway and the Broncos. Keith Butler
with a hit.
Gene Lang, short yardage on the catch.
Butler is one of those linebackers that we mentioned with a cast on hand. 3 of those linebackers, the only one without a cast is Freddie Young, and they all have hand problems. Schultz with a dislocated finger that he has to have braced up. The other 2, Gaines, they went in there with a gashed finger last week, a gashed thumb, and they x-rayed his hand and found out he'd been playing 2 weeks with a broken wrist.
2nd and 4. Reverse to Mobley, and Greg Gaines was able to cut him off and wait for support. Joe Nash, 72, the nose tackle, brought him to the carpet.
You better radio for help when you get one that size.
Good job by Gaines. Watch him shut off the outside and forces Mobley in.
When you play against the Broncos, you have to be extra alert. And that's the problem we talked about. There's Gaines with only one hand trying to make a tackle down in there. We mentioned those wrists and hands. It's difficult to wrap.
Yard loss on the play. It's 3rd and 5. Wilhite gets that exaggerated body lean. A flag is down.
He's thrown out in the direction of Billy Bryant, the center, who may have been holding out in front of that screen pass.
16 yards if, and it won't be. Red Cashin indicates the hold.
Holding, number 64 on the offense, still 3rd down.
The center, Bryan, with the hold.
Right in the middle of your screen, number 64, Bill Bryant, will go out and get in front of this screen pass. Elway leveled as he threw it. There's the hold. Right in the top right-hand side of your screen. That's a good tackle. Unfortunately, the offensive linemen are not supposed to tackle the defensive players.
That's one of the few things they do call for holding, though. Some of our creative NBC technicians decided to change the wording down in a generator area of the stadium, but it certainly is appropriate to what Elway is facing up here in the main deck of the Kingdome. There was no flag. That was just the beanbag tossed by the official. They were checking to see if Elway had passed the line of scrimmage. when he threw the ball. Horan's third punt. Bobby Joe Edmonds at the 28 of Seattle. Seattle has blocked 4 punts this year. Beautiful kick. At the 21. Edmonds gains 5 on the return. A 50-yard kick by Mike Horan, the former Eagle. Enjoying its 10-point lead, 20-10. Neither team able to move with the ball on possessions here in the third quarter. Now it's Seattle's turn from the 27. It's off that particular play, Merlin, that so much of the passing game of Seattle operates. That long run back to the tailback, and then Craig will fake the handoff to Warner sometimes, and in this occasion give it to his top runner.
And also off of that same action that they hand the ball on a little counter play to John L. Williams coming back the other way. So it's been a very effective play for them today. And again, Seattle trying to use their size advantage in that offensive line as they're blowing off and getting a pretty good piece of those Denver linemen and linebackers as they stun around.
To the 33, 34-yard line, where it will be third down and about 3.
But Dick, if you look at the defensive statistics in the NFL, you find that Denver is rated as the 3rd best defense in the NFL. The Seahawks, the 21st best defense. And yet, who do you think is leading the AFC in points allowed defensively?
I think I know the answer.
Yes, of course, it's the Seahawks. And I think there's good reason in looking at that to say, why don't we use points as the measure of a defense instead of yardage?
Breaking the shotgun, third down and 3. Warner can't quite get there. Jim Ryan covering for Denver. So 2 possessions, no first downs for Seattle in the third quarter after they went 4 for 4 scoring on possessions in the first half.
Denver able to stop the Seahawks, but now they have to mount something offensively of their own.
9:28 left in the third quarter as Gamache will punt. Second time both in this third quarter. Wilhite is second only to Bobby Joe Edmonds in the NFL punt returning list. Short. Wilhite, fair catch. Ooh, he just did get there at the 37-yard line. Denver has the ball at its 37 with 9:21 left in the third. Denver with the ball. First down at its 38, trailing by 10. Midway through the third quarter. Elway. Down the middle. Should have been intercepted. Into a crowd. Orson Mobley well surrounded. Eugene Robinson, 41.
Keith Butler, the man that actually batted it away, and a rather funny comment from him about trying to catch the ball with a cast on his hand. He said, maybe I can catch it in my teeth.
That one was
That's actually Schultz.
Close, yes.
58 Schultz. Well, he's got a cast. They're both there. Eugene Robinson almost got his hands on that football. He's the man who calls the signals for that secondary back there. Tom Catlin puts a lot of responsibility on him.
Undoubtedly, someone noting the fact that the tight end Mobley had 3 men on him. They might look for one of those wide receivers. Reverse to Steve Sewell. And Paul Moyer, who was injured in the first half, comes over to make the hit. Good play by Moyer. His alma mater will be playing Michigan in the Rose Bowl, the Sun Devils.
Another one of those plays that designed to try to take advantage of the reactions of the defense. Again, expecting that Seattle would be dropping everyone back. Well, Moyer wasn't fooled. Did a good job of coming inside out.
3rd and 7 for Elway. to Sewell. Daniel Hunter was there, number 23. Elway not happy with that throw. Oh, yeah. You can see Elway. He's ready to chew that face bar off his helmet. He was not pleased with himself. Edmonds, the leading punt returner in the NFL. Moran's 50-yard punt. His last kick was his longest as a Bronco. Another good one. Edmonds, a fair catch at about the 13-yard line.
Elway really has only had 2 bad ball games. Kansas City, San Diego. His problem in both of those games, interceptions.
Timeout, 8:55 in the third. It's a beautiful combination. The NBC Peacock and the 5 golden Olympic rings. And a reminder, of course, will be in Seoul, Korea. I got lots of nice Christmas cards. Yours, I got one from Juan Antonio Samaranch, the president of the IOC. That was really a nice to hear from him. He's excited that NBC is going to have the chance.
Just as excited as we are to have a chance to go to Seoul in '88.
Dave Craig from deep in his own end. Largent. Did he stay in bounds? Yes. His 4th catch. They retired the number 12 here in Seattle, and with the spirit of this crowd being acknowledged.
See if you can see Largent looking at this football as he pulls it into his hands, watching that football
and still noting where the sidelines was. Now that's really a tough play.
Talking to one of the scouts here, he said Largent is always under his shoulder pads, never out of control. And boy, you see it there. Able to twist his body 360 degrees, still get those feet in bounds.
Kurt Warner. Brilliant again. 10 more yards for Warner.
Kurt Warner at his best.
Boy, you better pursue, because those first few never seem to get him.
You better have a lot of bodies there waiting for him, too.
Largent with 19 on first down. Warner comes back for 10. That's the 1-2 punch. The Seattle club playing extremely well down the stretch. But will they make the playoffs? Craig open as Tice. And the tight end has a juggling catch at the 33-yard line.
Tice's father got out of the hospital back in Long Island on Wednesday, battling cancer. I know he's watching this game. Has to be terribly proud of his son, who fought this one all the way and finally got control of it.
That's his longest of the year, Merlin. 25 yards for Tice, his 15th catch. He was a quarterback at Maryland. Eric Sievers, the tight end down at San Diego, was his primary target, and he just reversed roles from quarterback to NFL tight end. Farther back into his own backfield than he wanted to, and thereby lost any chance of a big gain. Picked up a couple. 63,697 is the official attendance here in person, but more tickets than that were sold.
We saw Mike Wilson go out of this game earlier, and usually when you tamper with an offensive line, you have problems. Kurt Singer has done an excellent job in there, as have the other members of that offensive line, and opening those holes for Warner and John L. Williams, and in protecting their quarterback.
And Singer lined up at right tackle, 74. John L. Williams puts a move on Tim Ryan and goes all the way to the 8-yard line. This has been a drive of big plays. Largent with 19. Then Warner ran for 10. The tight end Tice for 25. After a throwaway 3-yard gain by Warner, here comes John L. Williams for 22.
Denver's defense able to stop the Hawks on their first 2 possessions of this half, but not on the third one.
First and goal at the 7-yard line. Center for the injured Will Grant. Oh, Dennis Smith coming up to smack Warner. Or was that Randy Robbins, 48? Ricky Hundley was there as well.
It is Dennis Smith, number 49. Good hard tackle, and they've been committing both those safeties, in particular Dennis Smith, up close to that line to try and slow down that running game. Mike Tice looks like he may have turned an ankle out there. Up deep in tight ends. Gordon Hudson is the second, and he's primarily a receiver.
Loss of about a half yard on the play. Second and goal. Largent right. Turner split left. Williams moves up on the wing. It's a new formation. Turner. Touchdown. What a throw by Craig. In 6 plays, 5 of them big ones. And Darrell Turner has his second touchdown. 7-10 as Denver meeting a lot of resistance here in red-hot Seattle as they go for their 5th straight win. Norm Johnson about to send one of those moonshot kickoffs to Lang or Bell. He drives this one more. It looks like it's going to go out of bounds. To kick it over again. That'll give us a chance. Our director John Gonzalez, our producer Larry Cirillo, they had that last touchdown from 2 very important angles. Let's look at the first part of the play.
Mike Harden's had a great year, but watch the way that Turner fakes him to the inside, getting off the line against man-to-man coverage, the key here. And of course that pass, well, we'll go back now and look at the second part of it. The man is open, but you've got to get him the ball. Craig puts it over the head of Harden. You just don't do it any better than that.
Darrell Turner's second touchdown. Yeah, the production, well, when he catches them, they're worth something.
I think seeing Craig at his best and then flashing back to that game against Denver in the 4-week period, one has to wonder at what a dramatic difference there is. There's that quick release by Turner, so important.
You've got to get off the line of scrimmage, and we saw Turner do the touchdown dance. Well, you got to be able to use those feet to free yourself from the line of scrimmage. This one is short to Bell at the 9. Eric Lane got a piece of him, and Eugene Robinson there to close in at the 30-yard line.
22-yard kickoff.
Elway and the Broncos facing a 17-point deficit. Tomorrow, NFL 86, prior to a lineup of very important games here on NBC, John Elway will visit with the gang from Denver, and that fine inside linebacker of the New York Giants, Harry Carson, will be in our studios in New York. To the 39-yard line, and Elway did a good job of acting on that one, as he knew he was going to have to be hit as he threw the ball. So Wilhite with 61 catches sets a Denver Bronco record for running back receiving.
We're still without a single sack, without a single turnover in this game. Most unusual stat as we are almost to the end of the third quarter.
Well, that has to bother Dan Reeves of Denver because they were one of the best teams in the league in sacking, and they've had only 3 in the last 3.5 games. Watson, no flag. Covered by Terry Taylor. In the old days, that would have been interference, but that's ruled incidental now. Taylor from Southern Illinois, an ex-Saluki.
Right at the end of that one, both players looking back at the ball, and that's the way the rule reads. And if they are looking back and do make contact, the official will say no flag.
Third down and inches as Elway had a down with which to play. Ken Bell from Boston College over the top and a first down at the 42.
Gain of 3 and first down.
When you think about this Denver team, and we've done a lot of that during the course of the year, Merlin, you take Elway away, and I know that fans in the Rocky Mountain area are not going to understand. Some of them won't hear what I'm saying, but it is, when you compare it with other teams, rather ordinary team. Elway moves that offense up considerably, but when you compare it to Seattle, they got a Warner, they've got a Larson complimenting Craig, and it's a testimony. Well, Elway off the mark on that one, intended for Watson. Testimony really to what Denver stands for, maybe the best team. Well, they play team defense. Obviously, each player is doing his role on offense for them to be in the playoffs as the AFC Western winner.
Speaking about Elway, you again flash back on the early part of the season when Elway was so hot. Look at what he had there. 13 TDs, 4 interceptions, and of course the Broncos with an 8-1 record. The last 6 games, 5 TDs, 9 interceptions, and they're 4-4, 3-3.
Elway, Mark Jackson, the rookie from Purdue, that's his first catch, and he makes a little extra. Oh, there's a late hit, and that'll be another 15 on Dave Brown. Jackson was already down when Brown piled in. He's had a fine season, this guy. Jackson, who didn't have a lot of notoriety outside the Big Ten. He was a 6th-round pick, 5'9", 174.
Unnecessary roughness. Number 22 on the defense. First down.
It was a good call, and Brown knew that he was late.
This falls into the category of dumb defensive play. And you wouldn't expect a man with the experience of Dave Brown to make that kind of play. I'm sure that will be embarrassing for him when the films are run tomorrow. And you don't want to give Denver a chance to get back into this game. You allow them some free yardage. You allow them an easy touchdown here. They get right back in the middle of it.
With a 15-yard penalty, that becomes a 31-yard play. Elway to Mobley. And Elway has found a new friend here late in the 1986 season, Orson Mobley. Sounds like someone that would have been a character on the old Andy Griffith show.
You know, they asked him, they did a survey earlier, and they were saying, you know, Orson, where do you like to go on vacation? You know, they expected a place like Palm Springs or Las Vegas or Hawaii, and he said, shucks, he said, I've never been to any of those places. Maybe this year I'll go on a vacation. They like him in Denver.
He's quite a player at Salem. He was their punter. Went to Florida State as a defensive tackle as a freshman. 2nd and 3. Lang had trouble. Or was that Ken Bell? There was trouble on the handoff. And Bell just did gather it in before meeting the resistance of the Blue Tide Seattle line.
We've talked about lines today, more about the Seattle offensive line, but Denver's offensive line during this struggling time at the end of the year has been having problems with injuries. Paul Howard out of there for a part of the time, and Keith Bishop has been in and out of the lineup. But one thing you've got to know that today they're all back in there, and injured or uninjured, they're going to give it everything they have.
3rd and that much. It is interesting the way the season's developed. The teams at the top, with one exception in the AFC, are all struggling at the end. Denver struggling in the West. You had Cleveland and Cincinnati. Cincinnati struggling at the end. New England and New York Jets both struggling in the East. 3rd and inches, and the crowd trying to help Seattle. Saved a 5-yard penalty.
John Elway called an audible, and there's no way that they could hear it. So someone misunderstood it here. The foot moves, and 2 men go in motion. Joey Hackett on the bottom. One of those 2 men is wrong, and Elway tried to get the audible called into the roar of the crowd.
Had to spend a precious timeout with 1:46 left in the 3rd quarter. The pain that the noise here at the Kingdome creates is real. It hurts to hear in the Kingdome at times.
Back in Denver, Dick, they were using an amplitude meter to check the sound level as they pumped sounds into their little dome from a tape of crowd noise, trying to prepare the team. But I don't think they got that thing cranked up anywhere near as loud.
This is in that covered dome that Denver practices in, and now you're a different reaction in Seattle as Elway just did make the 1st down. It's 1st down at the Seattle 17.
One of the problems, Elway will go on a count when he's under the quarterback. They can't use the silent count there. And there was a staggered start by his offensive linemen. Some of them were not off on the ball.
Mark Cooper, wearing 63, but had reported as a eligible receiver, was lined up as a tight end. Mike Tice, as we told you, injured earlier, all alone.
Cooper coming across from the right-hand side, and with that strange number, they just left him alone. You don't get it any tighter in the numbers than that.
Of course, Elway didn't exactly give him a cream puff to catch. That was a bullet. In the 3rd quarter, and the crowd, you think this isn't a home field advantage?
When the noise gets like this, the pressure intensifies, and sometimes that causes people to tighten up, to nerve up, to try and do too much.
Intended for Mark Jackson, and Elway was under pressure.
Seattle is blitzing on this play.
Terry Taylor, I believe the cornerback came.
Cornerback came all the way, and Elway didn't have time to wait for Jackson to finish the pattern. Had to throw it early. Watch the pressure. Right-hand side of your screen. Number 20, Terry Taylor, is in free. He'll take it right there as he puts the hands up in front of him. Actually, 2 defensive backs coming on the play.
34 yards away, Rich Carlos. And that cuts Seattle's lead to 2 touchdowns, but Denver wanted more than that. Carlos hits his 2nd field goal. with 1 minute left in the third. Seahawks still celebrate a 2-touchdown lead. Tomorrow, the lineup, 12:30 NFL 86, and then at 1 o'clock, the Jets still with a chance to win the East. Their wild card will be at Cincinnati. Kansas City plays at Pittsburgh. A win by the Chiefs, they're in as a wild card. San Diego at Cleveland. The Browns at this moment are the hottest AFC team, at least at the top, and if there's some point arguing in Seattle's behalf in that regard. Buffalo at Houston, and Indianapolis at the disappointing Los Angeles Raiders completes our schedule. More action tomorrow, and Harry Carson will be an in-studio guest, and John Elway, it'll be, I'm sure, a much more interesting interview if the Broncos rally, and they may not be able to find him if they lose. He's scheduled to be on tomorrow.
I think he'll show up. You know, that's one thing that Elway has done, is to mature as a quarterback. He was unhappy in terms of his media responsibilities as a rookie, and in the growth process he has come a long ways, but he is struggling against a very tough Seattle defense. We mentioned that they are not easy to score on, the least scored on defense in the AFC, and they've made it tough on him here today.
Carlos high but fairly short. Edmonds with that side saddle approach. Out to the 27-yard line. Well, we're going to sit back and enjoy the wild card game next Sunday on NBC, and then Merlin and I will make our way. You got a long drive for that one, all the way over into Pasadena to see the Wolverines of Bo Schembechler against John Cooper's Arizona State Sun Devils. It'd be first time Arizona can celebrate an appearance in Pasadena, and then Oklahoma and Arkansas in the Orange Bowl in our doubleheader.
I will ride my bicycle over there. That's not far at all.
Got to leave after 10:30 so we don't see him in the parade again.
There you go.
Seattle enjoying a 27-13 lead. Kurt Warner again breaking that first tackle, earning, instead of a 1 or 2 yard gain, about a 9-yard carry. Tony Lilly finally got him down. And of course, after the Rose and Orange on New Year's Day on January 2nd, a very unique college football game. The Fiesta Bowl for the national championship. Miami's Hurricanes, featuring the Heisman winner, Vinny Testaverde, against Joe Paterno's Penn State Nittany Lions. It's all, you know, Paterno is like Bobby Knight in basketball. He's tough enough to play against, but when you give him 3 or 4 weeks to prepare, a la Bobby Knight, give him a couple of weeks to prepare, you better be ready. Leading the Broncos 27-13. We'll be back after these messages from...
You see all of the water being poured into those cups, and the temperature is not the problem here. It's the humidity. They keep it dry in here, and you tend to boil the moisture out of your body.
Seattle second in inches, and John L. Williams fumbles, and it's a live ball, and Denver has the first turnover of the game at the 29-yard line. Randy Robbins recovered. So on an innocent 2nd and 1, Seattle coughs it up.
We talked earlier about the importance of turnovers and the fact that there had been none. Going in behind the left side of the line, Simon Fletcher gets a hand, and that's 52, Ken Woodard, who stripped that ball away, gets it bouncing. Another chance to look at it, and Denver practices this in their practices. They do a good job of taking the ball away. Woodard, 52, stripping it from Williams, making the critical turnover.
What was interesting, Simon Fletcher, 73, he was trying to do the same thing. He was the first man who hit him. He was reaching in trying to pull it away. And then Williams fighting to try to get the first down and was set up for the play. Watch Fletcher first, 73. See, he misses, but then here's Woodard, and he pulls it clean, no question. Fumble.
Just flat out stole the football.
That would be one they used to make you smile. I think you enjoyed that play when you pulled it off more than anything.
I don't think we took it away as many times as Denver and Seattle. Seattle, under Knox, leads the league. No one has taken the ball away as many times as they have, but today they have...
The play stands, first down.
into the fourth quarter without a single turnover. This one critical because it gives Denver a chance to come right back.
And it's a turnover that places Elway only 29 yards from the end zone. Here comes the crowd. And there's the first sack of the game. The play is over, no fumble. They're ruling Elway in the grasp of Greg Gaines, 56. Grasp and control is the ruling.
Gaines coming all the way around. Studdard, number 70, pushed him back, but Elway had to pull it down, and look how hard he has to fight. I don't know. That one looked like that might have been out of there unless the whistle was blown. Watch Elway's knees. The ball is loose. Well, almost simultaneously, I'd say.
They're reviewing it. It's a matter of whether the whistle blew, and of course we don't have that facility. From the angle of the referee, Red Cashin, it looked as if that Elway had been wrapped up before the ball came out. So
I think you'll see it best from this angle. I believe it's a fumble.
Well, it is, unless, but the whistle could have blown up there where he was juggling to maintain control. We don't know that. Greg Gaines battling through the
pain-free, as they say. He got mad at the trainer. He had a bad gash on his hand, and he had him put gauze in it. He said, "You get more gauze in there. Got to soak up that blood." Woof.
Where's that Christmas music? Let's see. We got a little delay here. Let's play some of that nice Christmas music we've been listening to.
Here's the best shot we have for you, and it would indicate that the ball is free.
But he re-grabs it there. That's what makes it a tough call.
The ball is loose before his knee hits the ground.
No,
so
that part's true, but if the official's calling in the grasp.
Nick Skorich is here along with Bill Granholm.
Based on review by the replay official, it is confirmed he was in the grasp. The play stands.
It's not a perfect world, Chuck. Second down and 17. Nevertheless, a big play for the defense. We've had the first turnover and the first sack of the game, back-to-back plays. Elway very angry as he slams the ball out of bounds. He was angry because his receivers didn't help him out, and he had to run the football. He did not want to do that. Get 7 yards. It'll be 3rd and long.
When you have that much time, you'd think you could find someone open.
Suddenly his wide receivers aren't in the game.
Not getting open. And again, we've got to give some credit to that secondary for Seattle. Tom Catlin told me they timed Elway in one of the game in the earlier game with them in Denver. On one play, he had 11.5 seconds running around back there. He said, try covering someone for 11.5 seconds.
3rd and 10. Incomplete. Intended for Mark Jackson inside the 10. Now, with 14 minutes left, does Dan Reeves go for a first down here or kick a field goal?
Well, there's your answer.
Try a field goal unless it's a fake.
Dan Reeves, trained by Tom Landry, who plays the odds. Here's a chance to watch Elway on that play. And you can see that each of those white shirts running into traffic. Although Jackson had his man beaten, Dave Brown, had that ball been thrown a little further.
47-yard attempt. And Carlos is 3 for 3. But Seattle did a great job of holding Denver to 3 after the fumble. The Seattle defense standing tall after stopping Denver. Denver with a fumble recovery of John L. Williams at the 29 had to settle for 3, so it's a 27-16 game. Carlos sends it high to Randall Morris. Morris out across the 30-yard line. Ricky Hundley and Rick Dennison on the tackle. Well, I like the underdog, and being from a small school myself, I like it when a long shot makes it in. So you've got to root for Dave Craig. There's something about Craig that is so endearing, that coming out of the little Milton College and becoming really in his own way. Hey, he's made the Pro Bowl. He's a star in the NFL, and yet he's had such terrible lows. He still has some high critics.
He certainly does. Some of them right here in Seattle.
He's had another good game today. There's Larkin. He'll make you look good. Steve Larkin, 20 more yards. The Michelangelo.
We started the day talking about number 80, Steve Largent, about the fact that he seems to always find a way to get open. Look at him driving Louis right off, made him turn his back. You know when you can make that defensive back turn around completely that he can't get back to you.
I liked your line, running under his pads. No, just head, shoulders in line, always in control. Slotted out to the right side. First down at midfield. Warner for 8. Ricky Hundley with a tackle.
Dennis Smith, strong safety, number 49. Now they'll want him to be aggressive in the running game. Look who's out there trying to work man-to-man, getting at least a piece of him. And I'll tell you, that's what you want those receivers to do. At least get that helmet up in there and get up there like a little banty rooster.
40 yards total for Denver, and Warner and Williams really the difference in the game. And 80 more yards, Largent receiving. A 1-2 punch for Seattle. Close to the first down, driving, yes. You figure he stopped at the 40. They don't get him down to the 37.
Strong safeties, we usually catch them as they are in coverage, but that's Dennis Smith, number 49, mentioning that he came up aggressively on those last couple of plays. He's down on the ground and not moving.
Boy, from the start, Dennis Smith has just been in on every play. He's been...
Let's see what happened to him here. Aggressively inside, gets a piece of Warner.
Ron Mattis has his 300 pounds around his ankle.
It looks like he's grabbing his knee as he comes up. That's one of the dangers of this turf. In fact, the danger of any artificial turf is that the cleats tend to lock up in that surface. And sometimes when you put that extra pressure of twisting on a grass surface, those cleats would release. Not so here.
Yeah, watch Mattis, number 70. See, he's down on the ground rolling, and he appeared to roll right over on the foot of Smith to lock him in, and then Smith's weight turning against that right leg. There's Mattis going to the ground on the left of your picture, rolling. See how he catches.
Rolling over the knee. Yeah.
Actually, it's the other leg, though, that he appeared to finally get.
Well,
he got it all.
He is up. That will require substitution. Both teams have had to substitute.
He's a member of the Denver team honored by the players in the league and coaches picked to the Pro Bowl. Keith Bishop, his first time, always first in the Pro Bowl. Rulon Jones, Mecklenburg, and Dennis Smith all going to Honolulu.
First time ever for a quarterback and an offensive lineman from the Broncos to make that trip.
Smith, who was a great athlete at Southern California, he was a 7-foot 2-inch high jumper and fast, strong, a hitter. He had only 1 interception all year. So the players don't pick the Pro Bowl based on statistics. 1 interception. He still went to the Pro Bowl for all the other things that he can do. 100.
Excellent play selection. I think the Broncos, anticipating that Knox would go to the run here. Steve Moore crossed him up as he comes back with the first down pass and goes to Largent. Play signaled in from the sideline, Dick, and during that 4-game losing streak, they said, well, hey, maybe the problem here is that people are reading our signal. They were only giving one signal. Now the Seahawks giving 2 signals, and they change back and forth on a live and dead signal on the sideline.
At 70 catches for Largent this year, 42nd time his career has gone over 100. And Kurt Warner dancing the sidelines. Finally, Foley gets him out of bounds at the 6-yard line. Boy, we're seeing 2 outstanding athletes. Largent and Warner just sharing the stage. First one, then the other.
If you want to take the pressure off a quarterback, how could you do it more effectively than to give the ball to this man and to throw it to number 80, Steve Largent?
Both men are over 100 yards today. 109 now for Warner. First and goal at the 6-yard line. A little confusion as Turner finally left the huddle, and now here comes another man in late for Seattle. There's only 6 seconds left on the clock. Warner, touchdown. A dozen this year for Warner, 2 today. And Denver now apparently is going to have to look for help to assure home field. And that game becomes the Jets game at Cincinnati. If the Jets win tomorrow at Cincinnati, they would get home field 2 weeks from today if New England loses at Miami, because then the Jets would be the champion. Football poetry. Will Grant is happy to be in Seattle after the tough years in Buffalo. Bengals play the Jets. The Chiefs are at Pittsburgh. The Patriots at Miami. For Seattle to make it as a wild card, 2 of those 3 teams have to lose. Seahawks aren't home free yet. But Denver starting to suffer through a long afternoon. Here's that last touchdown, Merlin.
We talked about the running advantage of the Seattle Seahawks, housed in the powerful legs of that man and also in the blocking of John L. Williams, and it has proven to be the big edge, I think, for the Seahawks today, Dick.
Yeah, there's times like this where I like the word, we both enjoy our work, but as a fan, to watch great players play well. I mean, Warner and Largent, we came in knowing here are 2 super players. And to be able to appreciate them. That's
well, I think to see them respond with the pressure on to give you their best on an important day.
Not that Elway's had that bad a day, but it's been only Elway. He hasn't had the help that Craig has. Watson, his momentum bringing him back, and he winds up gaining only 5. Earlier today, the Giants stormed over Green Bay. 55-24. They continue their winning ways at the end of the year.
I'm sure there's some confusion of people saying, as we talk about the importance of the games that are to be played, New England and the Jets. It's because of the head-to-head record with Denver that if the Jets are to end up as the AFC champion, AFC East champion, they beat Denver. New England lost to Denver. That's where the first tiebreaker is. That's why the situation differs.
Elway buying some time and then throwing back to Wilhite. He's got a little running room. But a good open field tackle drops him out at the 27-yard line as Daniel Hunter, 23, got him.
That looks like a scramble.
Patrick Hunter.
It's a design play. That's part of the unusual offense that Mike Shanahan and the Broncos put on the field. That looks like a scramble, but it's designed as a throwback to the far side. Just look at that stat for a second. Look how important Elway has been in the rushing game in the last 6 games. He's third of the rushing game in the last 6 games.
Well, the rest of the guys aren't doing it. Mark Jackson was the intended receiver. Elway missed his man. It'll be 2nd and 10.
Elway with 17 yards rushing in this game, so he's almost up to his average.
Well, you think back through the AFC year. There's one time the Jets looked unbeatable. There was another time Denver 8-1 looked much the best. Time where New England certainly was right there. And then it just one by one, you just wonder who wants to win this thing. Seattle would say aye. A lot of voices would say aye. 5 in a row. Oh, Patrick Hunter was right there.
Four weeks ago, after that 4-game losing streak, who would have thought that Seattle could pull itself up? Literally, they lose any one of those games, there goes the even possibility of a playoff. It's like they've been in the playoffs for 4 weeks already.
And they really lost them after losing to Denver 2013. Jets beat them 38-7. Kansas City beat them 27-7. Cincinnati beat them 34-7. Yet Chuck Knox pulled them out of that hole, and now they're going for 5 in a row. Elway wide open downfield. Ooh, and a fumble. And Seattle has it. No, they're going to call it an incomplete pass. Eugene Robinson made the hit. And apparently Mark Jackson did not get both feet down. It appeared he did, but the official there said no.
The Broncos have been winning all year with plays that are created and really developed by John Elway after the fact. He should have been sacked right there. Most quarterbacks would have been. Elway gets the ball downfield.
Tough to see from that angle whether Mark Jackson got the right foot down.
Yeah. We'll get a look at it.
But apparently no overruling, so Foreign is in to punt. Edmonds back at the 31. He had a 75-yarder for a touchdown earlier this year. Short. Oh, no. Edmonds able to come down with it at the 34, and a flag is down. 42-yard punt.
Did he call a fair catch? Ball hit the ground.
He did call for a fair catch.
I think when the ball hits the ground, that eliminates the fair catch.
Now the penalty is against Seattle for illegal use of the hands.
Illegal block, number 51 on the receivers. It'll be 1st down and 10.
The one thing that Chuck Knox does not want to see here is a turnover. When that ball is on the ground,
and a happy holiday to you. Not a good picture for Bronco fans. Their talented safety Dennis Smith, his knee heavily bundled in ice, being taken back to the dressing room. Our Budweiser Most Valuable Player will announce that shortly. Of course, an award given to the United Way, and the name of that player selected, or players. It's 34-16. The Seattle Seahawks, and Kurt Warner adding to his total 7 more.
We've got a Seahawk offensive lineman on the ground. They've been through 2 right tackles already today. That's their left tackle, Ron Mattis. They're just about out of big bodies in there. Mike Wilson hurt earlier, and then Kurt Singer went down, the man that replaced him.
Well, if the Broncos lose, They'll finish the year 3-4 in the last 7 games. If you put a Bear uniform on him, you'd swear that was Peyton the way he runs. Breaks tackles, darting, that lateral move, the quick move left and right. That's what distinguishes Warner and Peyton.
I asked him what he looks at as he's running. He said, I don't know. But when it's there, I know I got to take it. Look at that lateral movement.
Oof. Boy, if he were dragging a piece of chalk behind him, he'd make some of the prettiest Z's you've ever seen. 131 yards today for Warner. John L. 6 or 7 more. Now here are the report cards for the Seattle Seahawks. Craig, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Warner, 132 yards and 2 scores. Larkin, 6 catches and another 100-yard day. Hey, sugar plums. And only a week away from the big day. Playing in 2 weeks, but they don't know where or whether it'll be at Mile High or someplace else. Flag down. Warner would have a first down if it counts. Ken Woodard, 52, dragging down by the jersey.
Motion, Seattle.
Well, we talked to Dan Reeves yesterday, Merlin. We said, what are your priorities? The first thing, I mean, we barely got the question out, and Dan Reeves said, no injuries. Health.
Illegal motion, left tackle on the offense, still 2nd down.
And the other was you didn't want to have the referee's mic open when we're trying to talk. But then he went on to say that, and of course he's lost Dennis Smith, and we don't know how serious that is today. Then he said, we've got to stop Kurt Warner, and he has not been able to do it.
Well, you could earlier in the game say 1 out of 2 is not bad, but now with Dennis Smith having been carted off, there's concern there that maybe they have lost the most valuable Pro Bowl performer in that defensive secondary. They do have 2 weeks to get ready to play, and that will be a blessing after a game like this.
Seattle playing, hoping that they can play again next week in a wild card. Warner. Oh, he might go all the way. This is the camper, Kurt Warner, the hat trick. Longest run of the year for the Seahawks, 60 yards. 41-16 Seattle, and Kurt Warner, against one of the best defenses in the National Football League, has been a star today. Again.
And no matter what happens this weekend, whether Seattle makes it to the playoffs or not, they will have ended the regular season on such a high note that it will carry them through the offseason and I believe on into 1987.
You talk about it, what you said earlier, not thinking, the instinctive runner, and why we saw the graphic earlier. He's best in the fourth quarter when he's tired. And the moves he made, as you looked at it from up high, and you saw where the white jersey players were positioned, every move was so acute and perfect that he went through untouched.
We saw him do this earlier on Thanksgiving Day in a 3-play drive where Warner carried the ball exclusively. Fatigue. He's running harder and more precisely. Watch the cut here. Boom! Off to the right.
And now another
again,
one.
A second one, and then back to the inside. Playing that secondary almost like you would play a musical instrument as he feels the openings and takes advantage of them.
Gary Kubiak, the backup quarterback for the Broncos, apparently will finish the game. That matches Warner's longest ever run, 60 yards against Kansas City. I believe that was in the very first game as a pro against the Chiefs. In 1983 it was. And he's just shy of his best total game as Gene Lang breaks out at the 20, 30, and all the way to the 44-yard line. Warner's best day, 207 yards. That was in an overtime game against the Chiefs, another game back in '83. And today he's just under 200 yards, 192. There are the numbers on him. Last 3 weeks. Cowboys, Raiders had a bad day in San Diego. Was really embarrassed about only 93, and he made up for it today. Intended target Steve Sewell.
Dick, as you get ready for the playoffs and these Broncos with a 2-week wait, there's some things you'd like to have going for you. Momentum. You'd like to be playing your best football. You'd like to be playing like the Seahawks are right at this moment.
Or the Giants or
the
Cleveland.
Giants or the Cleveland. You'd like to be healthy. Of course, you'd like to be balanced. Let's put that back up after the play. Take it down, let's watch, and then we'll do a little extra on that.
Kubiak 2nd and 10 to Wilhite. Close to a first down at the 46-yard line. There's 5:45 left in the game.
It's so critical to have your health, and all you have to do is to look at last year's champion, the Bears. Look at what's happened with just one injury, that to McMahon. There are real questions. Can that defense carry them through the playoffs?
Well, they're the Giants. They basically have been one of the
healthier
healthier
teams. They have been lucky.
teams.
They have been healthy. Balance. We're talking there about the ability to play offense, good offense, and defense, which carries you in the playoffs, and good special teams, good kicking game.
The balance is the concern of the Bears. They know they got a great defense, but their offense has not produced the points that Mike Ditka would like. Wilhite gets the first down to the 43.
Dick, the final thing on that list was big play capability. When you get to the playoffs, you're going to be playing the teams, the best teams of the NFL. You can't just grind it out against those teams. The kind of attack that might have been successful against lesser teams or even teams that are equal to you, if you match up with a tough team, you've got to be able to make the big plays on offense and on defense.
Kurt Warner has decided this game. Denver's defense could not stop him. Kubiak just does get away from Jeff Bryant and is down inside the 40 at the 39 with a 4-yard scramble, and the officials are overlooking some holding at this stage. Let the game go on. 4 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Warner, one of the so many great stories in sport. A young man out of Pineville, West Virginia, and a loving school teacher was the one who led him out of that part of the world to the Nittany Lions and Penn State. He was his champion. Vance Johnson unable to get away from Patrick Hunter at the 35-yard line.
Gain of 4.
How many seasons have the Seahawks had? Well, you count.
Well, we know they've had 3 full ones in their first 7 games. Billed as a contender, no question about it.
Don't forget, they beat the Giants. One of those 5 wins. They beat the Giants here.
And they went into Denver with a chance to knock Denver off and tie Denver. Both would have had a 5-2 record. That loss to Denver sent them into a tailspin. Craig was benched. He finally came back, pulled himself out, and they have been, I still say, the hottest team in the AFC, and maybe the hottest team in football the last 4 games. Now 5 games.
Tough to argue with both the offense and defense the way they played Denver today.
I'm sure that Joe Collier will make some interesting notations in that book of his after this game.
They thought they were going to play well too, didn't they?
Yes. And it's interesting to me that if Dan Reeves' style is not to involve himself with the emotional side of the game. He said, my players know what's important. I shouldn't have to give them a pep talk. But I'm afraid that playing for home field was not as important as playing for survival today.
Gerald Wilhite dumped at the 16 by Eugene Robinson. And the Seahawks will be content to let the Broncos have the 5s and 10s down the field and let that clock tick away.
You'd have to wonder at what this kind of a downer just before you go into the playoffs would do to Denver, in particular, if they have to play that first game on the road.
Kubiak is nailed by Jeff Bryant. Bryant's 4th sack of the year. And that'll take it, if they wind it up after that quarterback sack, which they will, down to the 2-minute mark.
They missed him, number 77, out with an ankle injury through much of the mid part of the season, and his return certainly has sparked this defense. He and Nash both played poorly early in the year because of injuries, and Bryant missed much of it on injured reserve.
How you figure they lost Kenny Easley, a superb player. They lost Blair Bush, their center. Jeff Bryant was out. Unhappy day for Elway and the Broncos. And 3 touchdowns rushing. Budweiser will make a contribution to the United Way on behalf of all the MVPs selected during this weekend's games. And there's a classic that's, the Hollywood people. They say, well, here, we want a spectacular run. Here's what we want you to do. Go down, weave left, cut back right, make a couple of quick moves, and go in untouched. And Kurt Warner, that's Oscar stuff.
Yeah, we ran that just in case you had any questions as to why he was selected.
Meanwhile, Kubiak trying to at least get some cosmetic scoring for Denver. Through the hands of Wilhite, covered by Robinson. Now there's a guy that you just can't seem to get rid of in the NFL, Glenn Hyde. He used to be a Bronco.
Many times a Bronco. In fact, they didn't let him come to camp because they were afraid he'd make the team. Here, the Glenn Hyde story, I mean, it's not just one page. Look at the number of teams.
It's 3 leagues.
I'll tell you, the WFL.
World Football League, the USFL.
This is just page 1. Just look down that. Page 2. Denver has cut and activated him 4 different times. The last time he was cut, page 3. The last time he was activated by Denver was for a game here against the Broncos back in '85.
Intended for Watson on 4th down, broken up by the defense of Seattle, and the Seahawks will take over on downs. The message in Hyde's longevity for you young players is learn how to snap the ball.
Learn how to snap the ball. If you're listening and you're at home and you'd like to play professional football someday, learn to snap the football. That's the only position that I can think of, aside from perhaps a kick returner, where a coach will make the decision on that one skill and maybe keep a player, as they have in the case of Hyde, to do just that. They brought him in to snap the football, and that's all he does.
I love his nickname, Lumpy.
Lumpy. You look at him, you know why he got the nickname.
That's all those trips, all those plane rides, all those teams,
Lumpy
all those leagues.
Lumpy and Bumpy. There's been a lot of roads. He's been down a lot of roads.
1:49 left. Randall Morris takes over for Kurt Warner, and he's out to the 31-yard line.
just a final aside on Glenn Hyde. You know what he's been doing his last job?
Hasn't he been doing some acting?
No, he was a stand-in. He's been doing Perry Mason 4. He was a stand-in for Raymond Burr.
Well, isn't that acting?
Well, yeah, he just said, I got a line. He said, I did have a line. So.
Oh, boy. Yeah, he still can snap the ball, and it's such an asset that he's able to. When Blair Bush went down, actually took 2 men to take Bush's place. One to block Will Grant and another to snap.
One of the things that Knox and his staff will look at are not only the positives of this game, but the negatives, and some of those are on special teams. Seattle not as dominant, in particular, in covering kicks today as they usually are. They'll be, amazingly, you look at the negatives as well as the positive, even after a day like today.
Morris, he was in the clear with only one man to beat. That's a first down. Well, when not only is Warner, but Morris, if you gave Warner Morris's 2 carries here of 14 more yards, then Kurt Warner would have been well over 200, and somebody up front is doing a whale of a job opening holes all day.
Doing that, as we indicated, without Mike Wilson, who was injured, and without Kurt Singer, who replaced him.
Neither team's going to call a timeout here, so the final half minute will tick away. Our congratulations to Chuck Knox and his staff and his team. The way they've rallied late, they've earned a chance to get in the playoffs. It'll depend on other teams. And for Dan Reeves, off to that great start, 8-1, struggling at the end, but a team that has won the AFC West and will play in 2 weeks. That's something Chuck Knox would trade him for in a minute right now.
Certainly would. And Reeves' biggest job in the next 2 weeks is to put back together the confidence of his Denver team.
Our thanks to the help in the booth, Messrs. Moore and Verichik, Culver and Mathau, Joe Costanza. Invite you to stay tuned for NFL 86 after these messages. And then, of course, tonight, Golden Girls AM, Christmas in Washington, Christmas Snow. For Merlin Olsen, this is Dick Enberg at the Kingdome in Seattle, and we certainly wish you all a happy holiday.